4,200 is the number of startups which NASSCOM report pegged in 2014. That number grew to 4,200 in 2015. Now these are exciting times, these are exciting numbers. We feel, there's multitude of growth, percentage of growth seen in the number of startups. Another interesting fact. In 2020, 11,500 startups have been projected in India only. Right now, India is the third largest startup country in the world. According to number of startups, we will soon be second. $5 billion, if you calculate it with today's exchange rate, I don't know, somewhere around 30,000 crores, 3,000 crores plus, somewhere around. That is the amount of money which was invested in Indian startups in 2014. That number is 9 billion in 2015. So you can see the amount of growth that has taken place. Now, these all point, and 72% of these founders were below 35 years of age. So most of you guys, I guess 80% of people sitting here come under that age bracket, and these are exciting times for all of us. Now I'll come to a different picture. We all are pretty much aware of Startup India, Stand Up India campaign. It's a huge buzz. Our Prime Minister inaugurated it this year and created a lot of euphoria around startups. Even tier 2, tier 3 cities. I belong from Jaipur and I have not seen so much buzz around startup when I started up. Now my parents are, my father browses through my website and he says, "Acha, this startup ko funding mili, tumhi ne to news डाली थी." And I was like, 1.5 years when I started up, my dad, my mom, they were not supportive of this particular thing. Supportive in the sense they didn't know what venture I was going into. So under this Startup India Stand Up India campaign, the government invited applications to recognize your company as a startup. 250 applications were applied. Let's see how many got selected. One. Just one out of 250 cleared that government criteria of getting into startups. I'll get to some more facts. We all have heard this name, right? Zomato. There's probably not even a single guy who doesn't know what this company is. So this company raised $110 million in 2015. So that's a huge amount. In 2015 alone, in 2 tranches, they raised close to $110 million. Today, they scaled back operations in 9 countries, including the US, where they acquired a company for $50 million. That was Urban Spoon, the company which they acquired. Now, these point towards cautious times. So, it's a convergence of 2 things. There's a lot of talk around money coming into India, slowing down. Startups are not getting funded. A lot of ideas are closing down. A lot of startups are closing down. People are not getting money to run their businesses. The businesses have become more money guzzling rather than revenue generating. That's what the whole euphoria this year has been. So this year, it has only been, in the first quarter of this year, they were just close to 1.2 billion in funding. Even if you multiply that by 4, that comes to somewhere around 5.2, which is down from the figures which I gave you for last year. So what do you need to do? Do you need to get scared of the fact that funding difficult हो गई, क्या करेंगे? या ideas में लोग invest नहीं कर रहे हैं, क्या करेंगे? So this is what I wanted to talk about, because I've met a lot of youngsters, a lot of new startup founders who want to do something, but who are aware of these cautious facts and exciting facts, and are saying that since there is a slowdown in funding and since there is a slowdown in amount of investment which we are getting, we should not start up. I've met a lot of people. Raipur may not be the place talking about this, but if you go to Gurgaon, if you go to Bangalore, new people who want to come up, they have started realizing this thing. Once hired Puneet Soni from Google, brought him back to India to work as their chief technology officer. Just few days back, he left the company for no reason. He resigned from the company's post. A lot of people say that he did not have faith in company anymore. He thought that this company might not last. So all of these incidents, a lot of other incidents which probably I cannot sum it up in the 15-minute talk. A lot of these incidents have made people think: is there any sense of starting up now? There is. Let me tell you guys, there is, and there is huge scope for everything which is which your mind translates into idea. So this is what my motive is: feel free. Yesterday or day before yesterday, I was hearing Shah Rukh Khan. He spoke at Dhirubhai Ambani International School's graduation day. So there were a few lessons which I got from him, from that particular speech, and a few lessons of my own which I combined them to give you a more brighter side of the idea of what things are. Right now, people are investing money as good as they were investing last year. People are pouring, people are giving right kind of ideas, the exact amount of money they require. The only problem is that last year a lot of duplicate people started coming up and started raising funding. Each one domain had 5 different startups coming in, 7 different startups coming in. A particular food delivery domain had so many startups that you literally have 50 different apps to order food. Be it Tiny Owl, be it Food Panda, be it XYZ, be it ABC, every local city had a local food delivery startup which was doing this. So what was the gap? What was the issue plaguing funding these days? I'll tell you what the issue is. Earlier, when 2015 came, there was a lot of optimism because in 2014, all of our companies which were invested, which saw huge amount of investment, told huge amount of growth. Be it Flipkart, be it Snapdeal, be it any other XYZ company they showed great numbers, great growth rate. So investors thought that India is the market. We need to invest here. We need to do things here. What happened is they poured in huge amounts of money and that spoiled people, that spoiled children. People wasting $10 million, $20 million only on marketing, only on advertising. That was what was happening. So, when we also recently closed our own funding round. But that was obviously not as big as these rounds, millions or billions of dollars. We did not get that much money because we did not need that much money. But what we have learned, what I have learned from my 1.5 years of journeys, and which I want to pass on to everybody who wants to become an entrepreneur or a startup founder, you now have to show the exact, the core fields where you want money to be invested in. Investors won't just give you money for marketing or for advertising if you want to spend 70% of your money on that particular thing. That's just one aspect. And your idea, you need to realize within yourself whether it is unique or not. एक चीज कहते हैं that हम जो भी काम करते हैं उससे पहले हमारे एक inner mind, inner self में एक feeling आ जाती है whether this is right or wrong. Whether जो मैं कर रहा हूँ, is it different or is it just like anybody else, and I might probably get into this, I might not get into this. I personally feel that आपको उसी idea में pursue करना चाहिए for which you're 100% confident. If you have doubts over your own idea, if you have doubts over yourself, then you won't ever be able to justify it to third people who are trying to invest money into you. There's good to have skepticism, there's good to have fear. Fear is good for success. A bit of fear is always good for success. If you are feared of the fact that मैंने ये सही नहीं किया तो ये सही नहीं होगा, that's good for your success because you'll be motivated to do more, to bring more into your product. But at the same time, you need to keep in mind that 100% confidence within yourself is very much necessary. Express yourself. The product you design, you need to make sure that what you're designing, will it be useful for you? Will you be able to utilize it every day? If you see, a lot of people give examples कि क्या तुम्हारी family use करेगी, क्या तुम्हारे relatives use करेंगे. See, family relatives तो बड़े अलग age block में आते हैं. ठीक है, मेरे family relatives तो नहीं use करते मेरा site. But मेरा जो target audience है वो use करता है, मैं खुद use करता हूँ या मेरे fellow friends हैं वो मेरे बिना बताए use करते हैं. So family use करेगी या नहीं, relatives use करेगी या नहीं, that is something very on a negative side for me. Look into yourself. Will you use this over any other alternative? जो आपने बनाया है, will that product be useful to yourself? If you are designing a Samsung and if you already have an Apple, will you prefer Samsung over an Apple or will you still use an Apple? That's the kind of difference you need to make within yourself. Whether you're 100% confident that this will be the product I'll be using. That's how you need to innovate. Innovate basically. So these are times of technology. These are not old times, traditional times when a lot of paperwork and a lot of new theories and a lot of things were going on. So right now this is the time of technology. Right now when I'm speaking, a lot of things are changing in the outer world. The pace with which the outer world is changing, we might not be able to keep up with that pace. So you need to constantly innovate. A lot of I've talked to a lot of investors personally who have invested in these companies who are now shut down. I know you must be knowing about housing.com. How many of you are aware about housing.com? Everybody. And everybody is aware of all the things that have happened with that company. All of you are aware? So I personally talked to one of their early investors and to one of their late investors as well. The thing was that They personally felt that when housing came, that was an innovation. Because housing really revolutionized the way we search for homes. I myself have used housing a lot of times. When the company came, when the company was established, that was revolution, literally. नहीं तो हम आज भी magicbricks.com या पता नहीं कौन सी makan.com और फालतू की दूसरी साइट्स पे जाते रहते, हमें इस तरह का इंटरफेस, इस तरह की टेक्नोलॉजी से, we wouldn't have been able to witness it. But then came a time when they become stagnant. Then came their huge marketing campaign जिसमें उन्होंने 150-200 करोड़ रुपए उड़ा दिए, अपना नया लोगो बनाया, rise up or live up, something like that, some kind of slogan they have. Look up was their slogan which they use in marketing. Bangalore में literally every hoarding had housing.com only, nothing else. So investors question that you're not an Apple जिसकी rebranding से लोगों को फर्क पड़ेगा. You're a housing, probably 10,000 people know you and they won't care if you rebrand. That was the caution word from investors to them. But they didn't listen. And today we all know where that company is. And a lot of companies which have shut down, the reason behind them is, I'm not saying that my startup might not shut down. Nobody is successful until and unless you have made a self-sustaining business. So, if a company as big as Apple can, fail 10 products, and let me tell you, if you personally review these products now, you will find these are very innovative in their particular category. But something or the other went wrong with them. There were some products which Apple had to recall from customers, such pathetic were their state. There was one particular computer which was the Apple Power Mac was there was a product which was the first product which Steve Wozniak did not design. How many of you know actually Steve Wozniak? Thank God, because that guy kept crying for one thing that most people know only Jobs and not me. So Steve Wozniak, that was the first Mac which he did not design. And let me tell you, when that Mac started selling, sockets came out, semiconductors started coming. When people plugged in for charging, it did not charge. When its battery life started draining out. So these are the things which Apple, even a company as big as Apple, faced. But then they kept innovating, and now you know what the company is. It's the company with the highest market capitalization globally right now. Focus and learn from failures. I guess Sir just told about failures and why you should actually love to fail. That is one of the foremost thing when you start up. Failure is like it keeps coming when you start up until and unless you have developed the best thing. It can be in any form. It can be your first product failed, there was no traction, people didn't use it, investors didn't put money, you lost out of resources. There can be many reasons, but you should learn from your failures. If you sit right there on a corner block crying कि यार मेरा product तो चला नहीं, so nobody is coming, not your family, not your girlfriend, not your relatives, not your boyfriend, whatever it is. Nobody is coming to console you कि यार कोई बात नहीं, चल next product बनाते हैं. ऐसा नहीं होगा. You have to get up yourself, you have to build it on your own, you have to think where I went wrong, where I can do again, and start again. You can't just sit on a corner and keep crying. Now I'll just like to tell you a bit about what we did with the tech portal, which is our website right now. We are 1.5 years old now. We started with a .in domain because I could correlate my company with the idea of think big and start small. We want to be the biggest globally recognized digital media platform from India, because there are a lot of companies coming out of from West, be it TechCrunch, be it VentureBeat, be it The Verge, Engadget.com, CNET.com, ZDNet.com. There are so many websites, digital media properties from the UK and US, which you read. But there's no Indian website or global digital media brand which they read. So that is the kind of thing which we want to build. But we thought big, we started small. We went with a .in domain. That time .com was not available and it was very costly, very expensive for us. So we thought, let's start small, let's target the Indian geography first. Let our Indian readers know what we are doing. Then 1.5 years back and now, we have over 5.5 lakh page views a month, which our website is getting. We have, thanks a lot. We have close to 8 million aggregate page views which we have amassed over the period of past 6 to 7 months. Also, we are now publishing in English, Hindi, Chinese and Indonesian languages. We are publishing in 4 languages and we are the only digital media company from India who are doing that particular thing in tech and startup coverage. Apart from that, we are present in India, we are present in Bangladesh, we are present in Singapore, we are present in Indonesia, we are present in Taiwan, and we are present in China, with plans to go into Philippines, but we are not hassling up like other companies. So these are the positions which we are right now, and all of us have our own team built up there. So my final, the theme which this Utkarsh and his team took for this TEDx, Think Big and Start Small, is very relevant to the current scenario. There are many companies in India who thought big and started big and they failed. Why? Because you need to know when is the exact time to expand, when is the right time to grow, when is the right time to push up more resources into your company, rather than just blatantly going the very first day you start your company. So that is the idea. You need to think big, you need to have a good vision. You need to be very ambitious. I must tell you, if you think 90, you'll probably achieve 40, 50. That's how the metrics work in our real life. So you think that 90, you think that 100, but you need to start, as Sir said, you need to start with one. Every time you start, you need to start with one, because a lot of companies are live examples of how they went into 50, 60 markets and then they stopped. The best example for how this happens is Uber. I think Uber is not in Raipur right now. I'm not aware if Uber is there in Raipur. Ola is there in Raipur, but Uber is not there. Uber developed the app in India only, in some beach in Kerala or Kochi, I'm not aware. They started with one American city, and now they're present in 60, 70 countries. It took them 5 years, they did planned expansion, they have $10 to $12 billion of cash in their account through investor money, they are doing great, their revenues are fine, they are profitable in their first, second cities, then they expanded. So you need to think big and ultimately start with that one, and then plan your expansion for your product or your company. Thank you.